Hello, everyone. Welcome along to the Blood Red Morning Bulletin, your place every weekday live at 10 a.m. for the latest Liverpool FC news and transfer rumours. Well, I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Beasley at BaseTuned to Red on Twitter. Andrew, how's things? It's been a while since I've done one of these shows with you.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Quite glad in a way of an international break. Sort of take stock a bit of where we've got to in the season so far, and before we know it, we'll be looking forward to the derby. But obviously, that's still a little way off yet. So yeah, should be a good couple of weeks. Obviously, the women's derby as well is on. Is it Sunday? It's this weekend anyway. So yeah, as much as it's international break, I think there's plenty for us to get our teeth into.
Yeah, of course, women's derby at Anfield. That's going to be a big fixture for them. They're off to a great start in the WSL already. So hopefully they can, repair the damage from last year, because it was a pretty big defeat Everton inflicted upon them. So hopefully Liverpool women can turn that one around. But as you said, Andrew, we're going to take stock. And I've got a nice, easy question for you at the start of the show. Are Liverpool in the title race this season?
Well, I think they are, yeah. I mean, I think obviously it's very early. We have to say that, it's 8 games in and things like that. But I think they're in the title race because of their position in the table and their general sort of recent history of being that. Obviously, it's, Liverpool 2.0 is the phrase that gets bandied about a bit. But it's still, I mean, midfield aside, it's a lot of players who've been there before and been in this. And I think the title race is something you're in until you're not, if you see what I mean. Everybody starts on level footing, and it looks like it's probably Manchester City, still the favourites, understandably so, even though they've had this recent wobble, and then obviously probably Arsenal, Liverpool are next in line, and obviously Tottenham have had a very good start to the season, albeit with mostly fairly favourable fixtures. So I don't think anyone necessarily thinks they're going to last the distance, but I think Liverpool can be confident of sticking in there a while longer yet, particularly as, when you look at their record against the fixtures they've had, if you sort of multiply their points per game by their opponent's points per game, they've got the best record in the division. They've got a very good tally in light of who they've played, particularly having gone away to Tottenham, Newcastle, Brighton. All right, Chelsea are having a bit of a strange season, but I mean, that's never an easy game. So when you look at the fixtures, you've got to be happy with the points total. And hopefully they kick on in the next batch of games isn't too testing, pick up some more points, and then they're very much in the title race.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. We slightly touched on this yesterday, and I fully agree with you there. Chelsea on the opening day, it's always going to be a tough game. I think a point in that, objectively, is a good thing. No one saw, their sort of slow start happening once again. Obviously, Spurs was so unlucky the way it happened. They were damn unlucky not to get 1 point, let alone, maybe even 3 if things had gone completely differently with VAR, etc. But I mean, the main talking point, then, Andrew, is Manchester City. We saw them lose to Arsenal on the weekend. Do you think this is the weakest we've seen City in the past few years? Because obviously the title races we've spoken about before is 2 unbelievable teams pushing each other to 95 plus. Do you think that could be the case this season, or do you think it could maybe be a case of more 85, 90 mark?
Yeah, I was wondering the other day, I'm not sure if it might be a little bit like 2013-14, obviously a season Liverpool fans remember, but everyone sort of remembers the end and Liverpool beating Man City near the end, and then obviously what happened in the Chelsea game and stuff like that. But if you rewind it back a few months, obviously Arsenal arrived at Anfield. They were top of the league. And obviously Liverpool blew them away 5-1. Fantastic. But they were top of the league at that point. That was February, I think. Then a little bit later, Chelsea were top of the league. I mean, so much is talked about, Liverpool throwing that away. Chelsea really threw away the league that year. So yeah. I think it could be a similar season whereby the winner gets sort of mid-80s, but you might have 4 teams with at least 76 points or whatever it was that season. You could have that with the current top 4 as it is, where they're all going to drop points and there isn't going to be a 95-point team, but there might be 4 teams fairly close to 85, let's say. It feels like that in these early stages of 4 teams who could all go all the way. I mean, with regards to City specifically, you have to look at the fact that they've been missing Rodri these 2 games, and how important he is to them. One of the best players in the Premier League, no question. So he's going to come back in. De Bruyne will come back in at some point, and for a player who's not really had a rest for God knows how many years. I mean, they won't want him to have been out for several months, but clearly he's going to come back refreshed in the new year. And I mean, we only have to look back. It's 5 years since Man City lost 2 games in a row, which shows how unusual it is that they've been beaten by Wolves and Arsenal in successive weeks. But of course, that was the season when they got whatever it was, one more point than Liverpool. 98 was it in the end? I mean, they basically won every game in the second half of the season. Now, I don't think this City team is quite as strong. I think losing the likes of Gundogan and Mahrez and stuff like that, Doku looks a good player and things like that, but it's just he's not had that experience of going through that. You know, the end of last season, they seem to be winning 1-0 with a goal from Gundogan or a key goal from Gundogan like pretty much every week. And someone like Kovacic isn't going to do that. Can they rely on Doku to do that? I mean, probably not, you would think at this point. So it's fair to have question marks about City, but I also think we've been here before many times, and sadly they've managed to put a run together and get over the line. But I think there are more question marks over them than there's been for quite some time, purely because, as I say, they've lost some legendary players, brought in some new ones. I mean, some weeks they've not even been naming a full allocation of substitutes, and that's including 2 goalkeepers. So for all that they've got quality in every position, they don't have a hugely deep squad, so some more injuries and we'll see. But I'm certainly not writing them off yet, let's just say that.
No, exactly that. As we've seen, as amazing as talented the squad is, it isn't actually that big of a squad, having 2 keepers on the bench. And the point you make there about, Doku is a great player, but they signed Riyad Mahrez that season and won the league with him in the team because he'd already been there and done that with Leicester. He was already that established talent. They're sort of in like a Man City 2.0, like Liverpool in a 2.0, I think, with all these new young signings. Mateus Nunes from Wolves coming in. But yeah, Gundogan, I mean, I think he's the most underrated player in the league over the past 5 seasons. And his transfer to Barcelona sort of went under the carpet. I mean, no one really acknowledged that City are going to be missing one of their best players. The general media, no City media probably would have. But I mean, the main point you touched on there, Andrew, about the 2013-14 title race, I think we could see a similar position because Liverpool now have played a lot of tough away games, and then they can, blitz into the second half of the campaign and have an easier run of fixtures. Hopefully something similar to 13-14 without obviously the ending this time. Liverpool would be absolutely ideal. But anyway, then let's move on to some transfer rumours. I don't want to touch on the title race too much because it is so early. I mean, Jurgen Klopp hates talking about it. He's always asked in press conferences, isn't he? Let's talk transfer rumours, though. So Piero Hincapie, left-sided centre-back. We know that's the profile Liverpool were looking to sign in the summer. They chose not to. They've basically been told by Leverkusen you can sign him for 43 million in January, which Liverpool have said no. Do you think this could be a mistake, Andrew? I mean, Joel Matip's been playing pretty well. Joe Gomez has done relatively well. Do you think Liverpool need to get a centre-back in January, or do you think they could maybe, run the tide of the season?
Well, I think they seem to have a lot of faith in Joel Quansah, and I can kind of see why. I think he's done well in the games he's played and stuff like that. Equally, Hincapie looks to be the sort of profile of player they're looking for, certainly. I mean, he does, as you say, left-sided centre-back. He also plays left-back or has done. Clearly, if they're going to persist with the Trent inverting thing, which you would imagine they would, having a left-back who's a bit more of a centre-back, that sort of thing could work as well. He sort of offers a couple of options there, which is not to say it would be a mistake if they didn't sign him necessarily, but I think he is the sort of player they're looking for. And 43 million in this day and age doesn't seem like a ridiculous fee to pay for somebody who you could then have in the side for quite a long time. So, I think it's one Liverpool should be considering. I'm sure they are, but it may not be make or break. I know he's still got a few years left on his contract, so 43 million seems quite cheap. But I mean, if that is what they've said, then fair enough. But he's definitely one who, as I say, sort of fits the mold of what they should be looking for, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. As much as I would love Liverpool to sign, I think he's the exact player they need. He's basically the exact same player as Mickey van der Ven, who Spurs signed. Very similar profile, left-sided, quick, only 21, costing around the 45 million mark. And if they weren't going to go for van der Ven, I don't think they'll be going for Hincapie, to be honest, as much as I think they'd need to sign that. But I mean, just on this, Andrew, I spoke about this yesterday as well on our show, conveniently enough. Andy Robertson's been playing left-back now in this role. He's been defending in a back 3 at times, often attacking in a 3. Do you think that's more suited to a centre-back like someone of Hincapie's capabilities in that role rather than Robertson? Or do you think Klopp will eventually revert back to that traditional 4 at the back system he had?
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? I mean, I think I don't think they'd want to abandon the attacking from the left back entirely because it's proved so fruitful for Liverpool over the years. And obviously, when you look at Hincapie's numbers, I mean, he's good at carrying the ball upfield and stuff like this. Compared to he's sort of quite difficult on the stats because he looks very attacking for a centre back, but of course that's because he's playing time at left back. But he's proven he can do that sort of a role. So I mean, that's why he sort of fits the bill, really. as I say, I don't think they'll abandon it entirely, but I just think having somebody more focused on defence than attack might make sense with Trent sort of moving into midfield. And I think, I certainly don't want to be writing off Andy Robertson too quickly or anything like that. But he's going to be sort of 30 before we know it and stuff like that. So, it is going to be time for a change soon, most likely. So, you can see a world where the stars align and they do get Hincapie and sort of see where they go from there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that one pans out because Robertson is, starting to get the wrong side of 30. As much as I love Andy Robertson, been an amazing player, that attacking role, as you say there. We often see Robertson even popping up in the right wing like we did at Wolves and scoring anything. I think he's so important to Liverpool. And actually, his defensive contributions can't be underestimated either, especially basically playing centre-back for the past 6 months. I think he's been fantastic. So maybe in a couple of years' time is when they look to bring someone of a Hincapie stature in. Just to round us off then, Andrew, a bit of a different international talking point. It's Ryan Gravenberch. Obviously, the last break, he just signed for Liverpool. There was a bit of controversy when he decided to not join up with the 21s. Ronald Koeman has basically dropped him again from the senior national team for this break. He said, he's not ready to bring him back into the fold, taking a bit of a swipe at him. I mean, what do you make of this, Andrew? Do you think, it's Gravenberch's fault, or do you think Koeman's being a bit harsh?
I mean, I will always side with the Liverpool player, obviously. But no, I mean, it does seem a bit harsh to, sort of carry a grudge about this sort of thing. I mean, he had the last international break, he had literally just moved to Liverpool. He was selected for the under-21s. I think they played Moldova, was it? I can't remember who, but it was certainly not one of the top nations. And Netherlands won 2-0, and I think they had like 20 shots and allowed one. Like, it was not a match they needed Gravenberch for. Now, I can understand they want him to play. He's their player. They want to see what he's doing. Is he ready for the step up? I get all that side of it, but it's not like he was missing the World Cup final. He's missing an under-21 game that Netherlands were expected to win comfortably and did win comfortably. So it seems a bit odd to persist with it. I mean, obviously from Liverpool perspective, it's great news. And from Gravenberch's perspective, I mean, I'm sure he wants to play for Netherlands, but he can be fairly confident of starting a Merseyside derby in his next match, which is obviously a thrilling prospect, I should say, for a player at Liverpool.
Yeah. I think we've just lost Andrew there. I'm sure his signal will come back in a minute. But I think he was just basically rounding off his point there that Koeman has effectively decided that Gravenberch will have to play in the 21s and then work his way back into the senior side, of course. But we'll wrap up the show there, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As I said, we are live every weekday from 10 a.m. right here on the Blood Red channel and Liverpool.com, Facebook and Twitter. In the meantime, go and check out all the written content over at Liverpool.com from our brilliant writers like Andrew Beasley at SpaceTunesRed on Twitter. But for now, thank you for joining us on the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. We'll catch you all again soon.